I think this commentary may be more informative than anything on this show. Hi there, Ben Minot, host of the Oddity Archive, here to further discuss the Max Headroom Incident broadcast intrusion, which took place on Chicago TV on the night of November 22nd, 1987. First on WGN at about 9:15, and then the better-remembered break-in on WTTW 2 hours later during a Doctor Who rerun. As you probably know if you're listening to this, some episodes of the archive tend to be more information-driven, while others tend to be more gag-driven. This is the only episode to date out of a total of about a dozen regular and minisodes combined, where there was just way too much information, and I wound up cutting a lot out in an effort to make this episode a little more user-friendly. Probably the most regular complaint I've had about this episode is that I didn't go into enough depth on the theories behind potential perpetrators and motives behind the incident. And there's a couple of little errors that have since been brought to my attention. So doing a commentary on this seemed like the best solution in the history of television. Today, we're tackling the... First off, my feeling about who did this and why has shifted a bit since this show. After this episode first premiered, I was directed to a Reddit article, which was written by someone who wished to remain anonymous, but this person claimed to have ties to the Chicago area freaking scene, PHR freaking, that is, at the time by way of his older brother, and this group would meet in person occasionally. Well, there was a member of this group that suffered from moderate to severe autism, severe enough that he'd probably never be able to hold down any kind of job. And this person, the perpetrator, that is, or suspected one, he had a very bizarre sense of humor, very scattered and alternately childish and sexually deviant. This guy lived with his brother and his brother's girlfriend, and that brings us back around to the break-in video. And there seem to be 3 people involved with the break-in, and you've got, first off, Max, the autistic person, his brother as the cameraman, and hence the whole "my brother is wearing the other one" bit, and his girlfriend as the person who's spinning that piece of corrugated sheet metal in the background. And you'll notice that the metal is no longer spinning when she's in the shot in the maid's outfit. Before WGN engineers regained control of their own signal, cutting to the bewildered sportscaster wondering aloud about what... Now, one of the occasional meetings of the freaking group occurred on the day of the incident. And this is where I found a bit of a hole in this article. The author remembers hearing this particular person saying something about be sure to watch Channel 11 that night. WTTW. Now, there are so many direct references to WGN in the break-in video, you know, Chuck Swirsky, world's greatest newspaper, and all that, that you'd think this person would have informed everyone to watch Channel 9, WGN, that night. I mean, it was the initial target. The video certainly seemed to be geared towards a WGN break-in anyway. 50s cartoon Clutch Cargo, amongst other things. There's more, but we'll save that for later. Anyway, this article got me to rethink the incident, and I think now that this was not carried out by a bunch of bored, rich broadcasting students who'd had a little much to drink, but by some of the members of the local freaking scene. Between the gear and the cost to rent a powerful enough mobile generator, I think a group of these guys could easily band together to pull something like this off. But then again, these guys may have been able to just build their own generator. They certainly had the skills for it. And at this point, I also believe that Max probably was autistic. The movements are more pronounced than that of your average drunk 20-something, and the frequent moans that Max gives seem more in line with disability than inebriation, at least to my ears.
It annoyed some viewers.
No, I just thought it would be just a slight mess-up.
And there's a couple of goofs in this episode, too. Most notably when I'm doing the analysis and commentary, I think I called it. I mentioned that Clutch Cargo was still in rotation at WGN at the time. This information came by way of someone on a forum, which is apparently not a very good source. Upon talking to Rick Klein of FuzzyMemories.tv, who's since become a regular contributor to the archive, anyway, shortly after this premiered, I was talking to him, and he brought it to my attention that Clutch Cargo never aired after 1976 on WGN. It was a segment on the Garfield Goose and Friends show, and that ended that September 1976. Having said that, it would seem to confirm that Max was a native Chicagoan and that he was drawing on his local childhood memories a bit for the break-in. The other goof is during the bit where Max is trying on a single glove, and he complains that his brother is wearing the other one. I think he might actually be saying, "Looks like you got footprints on it," as opposed to blood prints, as I state here in the episode. And Rick mentioned that to me as well. And that would probably make more sense. His brother probably stepped on it and got it dirty, but blood prints was funnier, though, in the context of the episode. Some other little points about the break-in. The voice was most likely distorted with the help of a ring modulator, probably a homemade one, and giving these guys his background, hence homemade. This would have just been that extra step to cover their tracks so nobody could identify the voice in this video. And I also remarked at the end of this episode that these people were kind of hell-bent on fully hijacking somebody, video and audio. And when they failed at WGN, they just went for the nearest and most convenient alternative target. I do stand by that statement. I also still quite firmly believe that the hijacking was all about proof of concept. I don't think there was any kind of political or social message, as you can see here. Just some geeks trying stuff out. And it just happened to work. And it probably scared them a bit. So, that's how I feel about it.
Now, let's watch it again.
Of what little research I've done, it looks like the regular statute of limitations for federal offenses is 5 years. This applies to things that didn't end in death and injury and stuff like that. But it also looks like the feds like to take everything on a case-by-case basis. There are so many disparate exceptions to the 5-year rule that I don't think the general statute means much. And for that reason, not that there aren't others, I don't think the real perpetrator or perpetrators are likely to ever step forward.
The real Max Headroom had been doing...
Statute or not, I'd be willing to bet that the feds would still to this day like to have a little chat with these guys. And indeed, if there was a severely autistic person involved in this, all the more reason not for the real perpetrators to step forward. Because it would probably just ruin his life and his brothers, and they just don't need that kind of problem at this point, I don't think. So maybe it's for the best that this case never does get solved. Well, that pretty much wraps up all my theories on the Max Headroom incident here. And there's still about 3 more minutes of this show to go, so I guess this would be as good a time as any for me to discuss the genesis of Oddity Archive. Initially, there was not going to be a web series. I had no intentions of doing anything like this. I was just gonna write a blog on kind of oddball stuff I came across in TV and music and stuff. And then I found as I was writing articles that I kept taking kind of a sarcastic tone and a lot of stuff that I feared would get lost with the written word. So then it became, well, I'll do a podcast. How about that? And then I thought, well, geez, everything I'm discussing so far is TV, and I'd really like to have that visual. And that's how the archive was born. So it was unintentional. And look where it's gotten me. Absolutely nowhere. I think only just now is this show starting to garner a small cult following, and I do mean a small cult following. But hopefully I can continue to grow it because I am enjoying making this show. Looking at this episode is just so painful for me, though. I had absolutely no idea which direction to take this show in at the time, and when I look at this first episode, I really feel like I'm going a little too far into nostalgia critic territory. I'm just kind of sitting there and yelling at it and getting upset with it, which it can be funny, but it's been done to death, and I think I've managed to evolve from that, and I'm sure I'll continue to. It's so early in the show's run now. Here I am trying to foresee the future. But I think it'll just get better and better with time. Another problem with this was I was a filmmaking student for about 5 minutes. My background's really more in audio and music, and I don't know much about filmmaking, and I'm up against all these people that really do know how to make films. And it's been just a massive learning curve, just trying to get all this together. I never know how long to shoot anything, so you wind up with these completely extraneous freeze frames in here, and it's just kind of a mess. But the reason I picked this episode, or this topic to do first, was the fact that I thought it was a strong enough topic that it could withstand my own ineptitude.
All I can say is, thank God we went digital.
Well, that's just about it for this one. So I'll do some more commentaries here, and I'll discuss this a little more. But for now, hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully it wasn't too painful. Hopefully you learned something. And just gonna keep rolling with the archive. See you next time.